I had to begin to focus on what was the solution. That this was not the only place that I'll be able to sell those products. And as I began to challenge myself and got some help and support and some other input, I eventually did. It took longer, but it was challenging. But I did it. Repeat after me, please. No matter how bad it is, or how bad it gets, I'm going to make it. I'm going to make it. Shake somebody's hand on your right and left and say, you got that right. Repeat after me, please. It's possible. I can have my dream. I can get what I want. I must be creative and never give up. Now, let me share something else with you, ladies and gentlemen. When you know within yourself that there's something you want to do, and I believe that all of us were born with a purpose, that all of us have something that we are supposed to do, that all of us have some goodness within us, and that goodness gives us a responsibility to manifest our greatness. And when you know that, you can feel it in your guts, and you know that you're deliberately operating below your potential. You've gotten comfortable. You stop expanding. You stop stretching. You stop challenging yourself. Let me share something else with you. Not only is it possible for you to have your dream, but it's necessary. It's necessary that you have it, that you work on it, that you develop yourself, that you go for what is yours in the universe. I have a friend that at the beginning of the year I was in Los Angeles giving a speech, and I do a seminar teaching people how to become involved in the speaking business, and also one called Speaking with Power, teaching people how to begin to develop their communication skills. And this friend, I said, I want you to work with me. I called her up. She said, Les, are you sure I can do it? Sure you can. You have a PhD in communications. I don't have that. If I can do it, sure you can do it. In fact, I'm going to give you the support that you need. Here's what I realized, ladies and gentlemen. We only have enough energy to take us to a certain level, but it's necessary that we assemble ourselves with other people who share our vision, other people that can see it for us, to give ourselves a home court advantage. So it's necessary that you seek out other people who think like you, who are growing, who've decided that they are not satisfied with where they are. See, I don't believe that necessity is the mother of invention. No, necessity, in my opinion, is not the mother of invention. Refusing to accept things the way that they are is the mother of invention. When you decide, I'm not going to settle for this, this is not going to be it for my life, I deserve more than this. See, that will start making you do some stuff. See, a lot of people go to work every day miserable, and all they do is just talk about how miserable they are, but they don't do anything about it. So I was telling her that I knew she hated her job with a passion. I said, you can do this. You got more going for you than I have going for me. And we've been going through this for years, ladies and gentlemen. She'd been to my seminar speaking for a living. She brought her husband, and that was one of the major problems that I realized that happened in her life. He couldn't see it for her. So you got to make sure that you have people in your life that can see it for you, that will encourage you. Non-affirming relationships can hurt you. And I talked to him. I said, I don't have anything to do with your marriage. I said, you and I are good friends, and she and I are good friends. And I'm not taking sides. I said, but if you can't see it for her, don't tell her that. Just give her some support. What if you're wrong? It's possible, man, that if I'm doing it, she can do it. Well, you're different. How are you going to tell me that? You've seen her speak. She's got great speaking skills. Don't underestimate her. You don't know. You got a great woman here. But you see, people who can't see it for themselves can't see it for you. He was happy. So I said, will you do it with me? I said, I'm going to give you the support you need. You can't do it by yourself. I will stand with you. She said, you will? I said, yes. I'm going to make you a part of my seminar. You'll do a part of it, and I'll do a part of it. Speaking with Power. She said, okay. 3 days later, ladies and gentlemen, I got an emergency call at my office. It was from her husband. He called and said, tell Les Brown that Marion is dead. I said, oh no. When I was flying there to go to the funeral, and I remember the last time that I saw her, and I had some of her papers that I had gotten inadvertently confused with mine, and I took them home. And I was searching through these papers to do one of her works. She was a prolific writer. And what was so sad that made me begin to cry was that there were poems that she had started that were profound poems, great thoughts that she didn't complete. Plays that she had started that she didn't complete. See, that poem was given to her. I can't finish that for her, nor can you. That play, whatever the outcome that she had envisioned, that she had imagined, was given to her. Only her. And she's the channel that was going to come through. You are here, and you are the vessel. You are the outlet for the universe. That you've been selected. There's something for you to do. I believe all of us have some purpose for being here. And as I was going to the funeral, and I was reading a newspaper that said that millions of people are dying because of what they're eating, talking about their diet. And I'm sure that it was Marion talking to me, whispering, saying, Les, the next time you speak, say that even more are dying because of what's eating them.
Are you ready for something miraculous? One of the little boys that Rod Crew mentored was a guy named Conrad Rohn. Conrad Rohn was an NFL football player eventually. Rod met him when he was a little boy, same age when he met me. Conrad was the same age when he met me. And he took an interest in Conrad and believed in him. And Conrad went on to play for the Ravens and other NFL teams. He was in his off season, he was working out at the gym. Rod hadn't seen him in many, many years. He felt a click behind his right eye. He called his brother and said, I think something's wrong. His dad said, we feared it was an aneurysm. Are you ready? This is a little boy that Rod Crew mentored. At the same time that happened, Rod had a massive heart attack on a golf course and nearly died. At the same time, he nearly died. Thank God he was on the first hole and they were able to resuscitate him. And he was left with a few days to live. While Rod was in the hospital, Conrad passed away. Conrad donated a heart. Conrad was 29 years old. That heart saved Rod Crew's life, and he's still alive today. So, the lesson from that is that there's a payoff, and even if there wasn't, you should do it. But the investment of belief in people, sowing seeds of belief, that's what makes you a leader. People say, what makes me a leader? Makes you a leader is your example. What makes you a leader is you investing belief and loving and caring about people. Any one of you in this moment could decide you're going to lead, because leadership is instilling something in someone that they don't see in themselves. Loving on them, believing them, seeing their giftedness. All of you, I don't care if you're loud or quiet, big here or small here, you could be a leader. The bottom line is you need to decide you want to lead. You need to decide it's worth it. Our company's looking for leaders, and it's about your destiny. If you invest in enough people, there's a payoff for your destiny. I'm telling you right now, the more I'm here, the longer I'm here, my heart knows we're a company of destiny. We're a company where dreams come true. We're a company that stands for something. We're a company that changes lives. We're a company where dreams happen for people. You got to believe that. You got to believe you got a destiny. I hope you're hearing those people sitting with you saying, you can do this. You belong here. This is where you belong. This is where you can make it. I want to talk about becoming a leader for a second. You got to feel and know you're going to lead. It's not just going to happen. You have to make it happen. A few things you need to know is, listen, no one's going to do anything for you. A couple rules of being a real leader. You need to take responsibility for your own life. Bringing energy to your team. Leading in recruiting. Leading in leadership. Leading in growth. Nobody owes you anything, but you owe other people everything. That's what a leader does. You take responsibility. You know exactly right now what you're not doing. It would be criminal of you to leave here and say, I don't know what to do. You know exactly what you're afraid of. You know exactly what you've been avoiding, and you got to make a decision to change it. You know exactly what it is. Don't BS anybody. You know what you need to do different. You know the changes you need to make, and if you can do that, you stop kidding yourself, you can win. You can overcome your fear, overcome procrastination, whatever that is. You know exactly what it is. Number two, you got to compete. I agree with what Monty said yesterday. You don't have to be number one, but dadgummit, you better want to compete to be the best version of you could possibly be. Your desire and will to win is everything. I believe you win with intangibles, with emotion, with energy, with passion. And you got to bring that. You know what we're really looking for right here? We're looking for some dogs, man, some road dogs. We're looking for some people that want to get aggressive. How many road dogs we got out there? You know what I mean, right? I hear ladies go sometimes, some of the guys who, I don't know if I got a road dog in me. Ladies, let me tell you something. The hardest core road dogs in the world are women. Hey, ladies, here's how we know. What if someone messed with your kid at school? You know how you get? You slap the hell out of a little kid if you have to, don't you? You don't give a crap. Well, guess what, ladies? Listen to me. You're letting the world slap the hell out of your family, and you're not doing anything about it. You're letting life slap the hell out of your kids and you. You're settling for average, aren't you? You're settling for ordinary, aren't you? See, you may not see the slap, but you can feel it. You need to stop letting the world slap your family around. It's time that stops right now. You say, that's the end of this. This family wins now. I'm leading this family. Change happens now. Say yes.
Stop letting people hold you to your past. Yeah, man, I got what I used to do, but I'm trying to do better now. Stop letting people tie you to what they saw you do 5, 10 years ago. You can go on the internet and say whatever you want to say about me in the past. Got all that. Was who I was, but I am who I am, and I'm cool with both of them people. You got to be not all right to get all right. You got to be lost to get saved. You got to have been through something to know something. So please, get comfortable with that get comfortable with that part. I don't know what I'm doing on time, so I'm just gonna go ahead. Okay, cool, here we go. This is the one I really wanted to do because this one describes my life to the T. When I left college, I flunked out of college after 3 years. When I worked at Ford Motor Company, one of the last jobs I had because of the layoffs was they put me in the foundry. I learned a valuable lesson in the foundry because I used to be a foundry worker at Ford Motor Company. I'm now a spokesperson for Ford. Let me tell you how the flip went. A lot of people don't know, but in the foundry, they was making engine blocks. Engine blocks start with scrap metal. See, people, you think old cars just go away. No, they go to junkyards. Companies take this scrap metal and they melt the metal down. But it starts with scrap. They run it through a furnace, and when it gets in the furnace, they liquefy the metal. Then they take this metal and they pour it into a mold. This mold is the engine block. But when you pour it in there, it's just hot. It's just hot. It ain't nothing. And you think that you can't do nothing with that. But then something comes along and gets a hold of it. Something comes and gets a hold of it. It takes this hot piece of mess that was scrap. It lifts it. It dips it. It cools it. It refinishes it. It hardens it. And then it puts it on a conveyor belt. When it come out the conveyor belt, my job was to hit it with a sludge hammer and knock the loose flashing out. That's empty, extra metal on it. And then you have an engine block. The basic of any engine is the block. You got a cracked block, you can throw that engine away. It don't work. But the block starts from scrap metal. This really how God do it, though. See, God takes scrap. All engine blocks is scrap. He takes scrap. Come on, Steve. Come on. He mold it. He pour into it. Then it come out, he cool it. He shape and he start putting stuff on it. He start attaching pieces to it. He put a manifold on it. He put the rocker arm on it. He put the exhaust on it. He put spark plugs on it. He put a carburetor on it. He put a fan belt, water pump, and he take it and he put it in a car. But all of it started when it was a piece of scrap metal, man. We cannot do as Christians is just cause we the car now. You can't look at the dude that's in the furnace that's just wet liquid. That's a hot mess. You can't look back at the scrap pile and go, they just scraps, man. Cause what you don't understand is you got to have that scrap so you can make a block, so God can put stuff on it. So when you put it on it, you can be a car one day. I just want everybody to let everybody be a block, man. Let them be a hot mess in a furnace. Let them be a scrap, man. You ain't got nothing to do with that. That's God right there, man. That's all I'm trying to say. That's all.
You got to get ready mentally. And this is where Shof went to work on me, to be ready mentally, to develop the philosophy and also be able to defend your virtues and your value. Let's go through it. You need a good library. Shof got me started on my library. Here's one of the books he recommended. Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Think and Grow Rich. Shof said to me, doesn't that book and title intrigue you? Think and Grow Rich. Don't you have to read that book? Think and Grow Rich. I said, yes, sir. By Napoleon Hill. I went and found that book in a used bookstore. That's where I had to start. In a used bookstore. I paid less than 50 cents for it. I've still got it. It's one of the rare hardback covers. Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Wow, Shof was right. Get a library started. It'll change your life. Any home over $200,000 has got a library. Why do you suppose that is? Wouldn't that make you curious? How come every home over $200,000 has got a library? Does that tell you something? Does that educate you at all? You say, well, I can't afford a $200,000 home. It doesn't matter what size home. Take your present apartment, clean out a closet, call it your library, and start acting intelligent. And start this process like I did. Start developing a library. Here's what your library needs to show: that you're a serious student of health and life, spirituality, culture, uniqueness, sophistication, economics, prosperity, productivity, sales, management, skills, values of all kinds. Let your library show you're a serious student. Don't be casual in learning. Don't be lazy in learning. Information is the key. Learning is the beginning of wealth. Learning is the beginning of health. Learning is the beginning of prosperity. Learning is the beginning of democracy, the beginning of freedom. All values, all virtues start with the learning process. So don't be lazy in learning. Don't be lazy in gathering the library that'll teach you and instruct you. And I got that book, Think and Grow Rich. Some of the ideas in that book inspired me no end, helped me to change my life. Now, it's got some weird stuff in it. It's got some weird stuff. Napoleon was weird, so you gotta separate out a little of this weird stuff. But you can do that. You can separate out the weird stuff, okay? Unless you're weird, just do the weird stuff. Anyway, remember, don't be a follower, be a student. That's the key to all books. Don't be a follower, be a student. Okay. Another book he recommended, Help Me Become Financially Independent. We're going to cover that before we finish this afternoon. The book was entitled The Richest Man in Babylon. The Richest Man in Babylon by George Clason, C-L-A-S-O-N. This little book, The Richest Man in Babylon, I use it as a textbook, teaching teenagers how to be rich by 40, living in America. 35 if you're extra bright, much sooner if you find a unique opportunity. I got rich by the time I was 31, didn't wait till 35. You find a unique opportunity. So we'll get into that after we come back from our next break. Richest Man in Babylon. Get your library started. Here are some key sections to put in your library called mental food. In fact, we call it food for thought. It's so important to nourish the mind, not just the body, but nourish the mind. Key phrase. Now it needs to be well balanced. You can't live on mental candy. Somebody says, well, I just read this positive stuff. That's too second grade. You've got to get out of second grade. You can't just be inspired. You've got to be taught. You can't just be inspired. You've got to be educated. Here's a good book. It's called How to Read a Book. Good title. How to Read a Book by Mortimer Adler. In this book, How to Read a Book, Mortimer, is the chief editor of the new Encyclopedia Britannica. A good set of books, right, to have in your library. The Encyclopedia Britannica, chief editor, Mortimer Adler. He's in his 80s. He's still active, still writing books. I've got several of his books. The 6 Great Ideas, a lot of books. Mortimer Adler. But he wrote this book, How to Read a Book. Now, in this book, How to Read a Book, not only does he give you some good suggestions on how to get the most out of a book. It's one thing to read it. It's another thing to get the best out of it. He'll give you some techniques on how to get the best out of a book. It's very good. But here's what's also in his book, How to Read a Book. A list of what he calls the best writings ever written. The best writings ever written. I've used it as a centerpiece for my library. So I'm just asking you, take a look. If it suits you, fine. If it doesn't suit you, hey, keep looking till you find something to suit you. But well balanced. Let me give you some of that balance. Number 1, history. We've all got to have a sense of history. American history, national history, international history, family history, political history. We all need a sense of history. Shortest history lesson. Opportunity mixed with difficulty. No matter how far back you go, 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, 3,000, 4,000 years ago, I'm telling you, it all reads the same. Once you understand the thread that it isn't going to change, then what's going to change for my life? Answer. Looks like I'm going to have to change. History helps us to understand how it is, what there is to work with, seed, soil, sunshine, rain, and what human beings have done with it in the past, and how many of them have, like I did by age 25, they have messed up. That's what history's for. Be a good student of history. Here's a good book, Lessons of History by Durand. Lessons of History by Durand. This little book is only 100 pages, but I'm telling you, it's so well written, you'll be intrigued, as I was. This little book, Lessons of History by Durand. Next is philosophy. Durand also wrote a good book on philosophy. The Story of Philosophy. It's got a good rundown of the key philosophers of the last several hundred years, what they taught and some of the lives they lived. You might find it a little difficult, but hey, you can't just read the easy stuff. Key phrase to add here in parentheses, don't just read the easy stuff. You won't grow. You won't change. You won't develop. Tackle the more difficult stuff. Next, novels. Novels are good. Sometimes an intriguing story keeps our attention so that the author can weave in the philosophy he or she is trying to get across. Ayn Rand was probably better at that than anybody else I could possibly think of. Atlas Shrugged, some of those towering novels. The novel kept us intrigued, but guess what she was doing all the time? Feeding us her philosophy, feeding us her philosophy. Now, whether you agreed with her philosophy or not, you had to admit she was really good at getting it out there, weaving it through the story, in the dialogue and in the speeches and in the text. Novels are good. Now, here's a little personal advice. Skip the trash. Somebody says, well, sometimes you can find something valuable in a trashy novel. I wouldn't go through it to find it. You can find a crust of bread in a garbage can, but I wouldn't go through it. Number one, you don't need the reputation. So, not enough time to read the brilliant stuff, the good stuff. Skip the trash, really. My personal advice on personal development, becoming more valuable than you are.
Let's talk about what nobody wants to talk about. Who here has ever failed? Who's here has failed miserably at something you wanted to achieve? When you failed, why did you fail? Didn't have enough time, didn't have the right technology, didn't have the money, didn't have the contacts, had the wrong people. The people said we had the wrong leader. Everything you people have told me, I didn't have the technology, I didn't have the right contacts, I didn't have the time, I didn't have money. Everything you've told me, I didn't have enough Supreme Court justices. Those are resources. And so you're telling me I failed because I didn't have the resources. And I'm here to tell you what you already know. Resources are never the problem. It's a lack of resourcefulness is why you failed. Because the ultimate resources are emotional states. If you're creative enough, can you find the answer? Yes or no? If you're determined enough, can you find the breakthrough? Yes or no? If you're passionate, loving enough, can you get someone to help you? Yes or no? If there's no way that you're committed, can you find the money even if you don't have it? Yes or no? So I said creativity decisiveness, passion, honesty, sincerity, love. These are the ultimate human resources. And when you engage these resources, you can get any other resource on earth. And I said, so you told me all the resources you're missing, and you hypnotize yourself into believing that you don't have what you want because you don't have the resources, when the most successful people in history had no resources, but they were incredibly resourceful, so they got the resources. Resourcefulness is the ultimate resource. And if you don't have what you want, stop telling yourself the story because you don't have the money, you don't have the time. That's bullshit. It's because you haven't committed yourself where you would burn your boats. If you want to take the fucking island, burn your fucking boats, and you will take the island, because people, when they're going to either die or succeed, tend to succeed. But most of us give ourselves a way out, and that's why we don't have what we want. So if you and I really want to know what's going to take to get your dream and make it real, it's to stop all the things you told yourself that aren't. And I'm here to tell you what I said at the top of our discussion. 80% of success is psychology and 20% is mechanics. That's true of running your business. That's true of your intimate relationship. That's true of your body. That's true in your level of happiness. So you got to know the 20% because that gives you the edge, right? Those strategies. But you got to know the psychology. If you're in business right now, there's a few things. The chokehold on the growth of your business is you. It is not your people. It is the leader of this organization. The leader is the chokehold. And the chokehold comes in one of two forms. Your psychology. You think you've tried everything. You've tried everything but what fucking works. Or it's a skill that you're missing. Like you really are incredible at writing code, but you don't know shit about accounting and finance, and it's eating your business alive. Because I got to tell you, 96% of all businesses in a 10-year period of time go under. Only 4% make it. By the way, make it doesn't mean that you succeed and have any money. It just means you're still standing. 4%. And by the way, after 10 years, you're set, right? There's no more challenges. If you got in a business and you're in it right now, I love you, I respect you as a brother or sister, and I know you're a crazy son of a bitch just like me. You have to be. Who gets in a sport where the longer you play, the more likely you die? You're a gladiator if you're in business. A gladiator goes out there and they know every time I go out I can die, and the longer I stay in the game, the more likely I die, but every day they go out to win. That takes an incredible psychology. But in that psychology, we bump onto limits, and that's what you got to shift. And if your psychology is solid, you got to say, where are the skills I'm missing? Because that's equally important. If you don't know how to market in the world we're in today, if you don't know the cutting edge of marketing, I'm only here today. I have the privilege to be with you here. I created a brand, and that's why I have the privilege to serve you. But that brand came because I realized early in my career, I got the best ideas in the world, but they're going to die on my lips unless I can market them, unless I can build a brand. It is the most important thing today because the world is made up of commodities. The world is so competitive. If you're a commodity, if you're a race for the lowest price, you will be out of business within 10 years, probably more like 2 to 5. You have to have something that separates you from everybody else on earth, and until you find out that something, you will be stressed and you will be struggling. But everybody has it, or anybody can create it. That's my expertise. My companies, I started with 0. We do more than 5 billion with a B per year, my companies, combined. How the f did you do that when it's not even your focus?
We all have a set of belief systems, different kinds of beliefs, about if something happens, then it means something else. So for example, do we have rules for like what people do if they love us? Yes or no? So if a person loves you, then they what? They respect you. And by the way, does this person also then have a set of rules for if you respect them, then you, and they have look at them a certain way, don't raise your voice. If you respect me, then you don't raise your voice. If you respect me, then you tell me the truth. If you respect me, you follow what I'm saying here? And you know, the problem is all these rules are unconscious. What else? If a person loves you, they what? Trust you. Good. If a person loves you, then they communicate. If a person loves you, then they compromise. Now, some people's rules are, Never in life do you compromise. To compromise is to give up your integrity. Some people's idea of integrity is if you compromise, then you have no integrity. A lot of us have rules that are absolutely totally unfair to us. For example, my favorite program that I do is all on this destiny technology I developed, where I ask the question constantly, what makes people do what they do? And I started asking that question more intensely after a guy embezzled $250,000 from me, ran me $758,000 in debt. So I came up with all these incredible distinctions, and I refined them in the last 3 or 4 years by doing a research project. My research project is called Date with Destiny. What it is the most powerful program I do. I take only 100 people at a time. I've been doing this now for about 2.5 years. And before they even get there, I get about 18 pages from them on every emotion they ever feel, what triggers it for them, what they believe is most important in life, what they think their experiences of life were, and I analyze every single thing about this person I can. And we bring them in here and we find out what their core beliefs and values and rules are. Because that determines how you interpret your life, how you feel about it. When we change that, it changes their whole life. So for example, if your highest value in life was security, you're going to make decisions differently than if your number one value is adventure, right? Well, if you had somebody's highest value security, the last one was adventure, one day you swap them, it might change their personality a little bit. It changes everything. Everything. And we don't do it haphazardly. We find out what they want in their life, and we make sure their values are consistent with what they want. Because most people are being pulled in 2 different directions, right? They want to be successful, and they don't want to ever be rejected. Guess again. And most people are trying to meet 2 masters that can't be met, and so they get pulled apart and they sabotage a lot of stuff. But the biggest challenge for people, I think, is their rules. Most people in life have wired their brain where it's really, really hard to feel good. Every upset you've ever had or you ever will have with another human being is a rules upset. You are not upset with a human being. You're upset with their rules because you have a different set of rules. So every upset you've ever had with another human being has been a rules upset. And whether we get pain or whether we get pleasure in any moment is not based on what happens, but our giving ourselves that pain and pleasure based upon our rules.
People don't have enough rules in their life for themselves. So for instance, I get out of bed in 10 minutes or less. Doesn't matter. And I don't want to. That's why I have the rule. Because I went through,
callous your mind.
Literally, I went through a period where I would lay in bed for 3 to 4 hours, awash in shame at my inability to get out of bed. And it just embarrassed me. And so I felt badly about myself. So I wanted to make a change. So I knew that I needed a bright line. So bright line, 10 minutes or less, you get out of bed as soon as you realize you're awake. That's it. So, and the rule is more specific. It's like I have to have had at least 5 hours of sleep. But once you put the rule in place, then you just live by it. And that's how you earn credibility. Like right now, I don't feel the way telling you that I want to feel. This is a good moment. He's on my team. I'm pointing at him. This is a good moment. So I'm saying this and I don't feel good about saying it. Why? Because today, I don't know what happened. I got out of bed in 11 minutes and I was so
You literally time it?
Oh yeah.
I mean, from waking up to actually physically getting out of the bed?
Correct. My feet must be on the floor and I must be standing up before it ticks over into the 11th minute. And today, I don't know what happened. I was aware of the time. I knew I needed to get up. And for whatever reason, one of the minutes just went faster than I thought. When I looked back, I was like, damn it. And so
I'm surprised you even made it here today then.
Right? So now this comes into like knowing how to handle something like that. Like if you totally fall apart because you don't live up to one of your rules, you're violating another one of my rules, which is don't do anything that doesn't move you towards your goals. So it's like, yes, it is a part of my identity to confess this. So because I'm talking about it, I want to say it now to an audience. It's the only thing that will allow me to reset and be able to feel good about it again, because I don't lie. When I miss it, I own it.
Well, look, if your biggest problem is it took you 11 minutes to get out of bed.
Sadly, that's not my biggest problem.
This is a high quality problem.
Right. Yes, very true. But my thing is people don't have the rules. And so I have other rules, for instance. I wear a size 32 pant. That's it. And so
no matter what your waist is.
No. I won't let my waist get out of line with that. So I use the pants as a way to guide. Now I would go down if I got so lean that I was, a 31. That's not a problem. But I'm not going to allow myself to go up. And it's super tempting, like especially around Christmas. I don't try to hold abs through the winter. So during Christmas, like right now, I do not have abs. So, and I'm totally fine with that. I switch a different part of my mentality. During the holidays, my wife and I definitely celebrate with food, and it's amazing, and I love it the most. So, but if that celebration took me up to like 32s don't fit anymore, I got to cut back because I have a rule. So it's like, that's how I keep myself in a lane. I keep myself from getting into trouble. I know the things that I accept for myself and what I don't accept for myself. And it's all like stated. It's very clear.
Stop doing the things that you know are wrong that you could stop doing. Right? So it's a fairly limited attempt. First of all, we're not going to say that you know what the good is or what the truth is in any ultimate sense. But we will presume that there are things that you're doing that for one reason or another you know are not in your best interests. There's something about them that you just know you should stop. They're kind of self-evident to you. Other things you're going to be doubtful about. You're not going to know which way is up and which way is down. But there are things that you're doing that you know you shouldn't do. Now, some of those you won't stop doing for whatever reason. You don't have the discipline, or maybe there's a secondary payoff, or you don't believe it's necessary, or it's too much of a sacrifice, or you're angry or resentful or afraid. Who knows? So forget about those for now. But there's another subset that you could stop doing. It might be a little thing. Well, that's fine. Stop doing it and see what happens. And what will happen is your vision will clear a little bit. And then something else will pop up in your field of apprehension that you will also know you should stop doing, and that you could stop doing because you strengthened yourself a bit by stopping doing the particular stupid thing that you were doing before. That just puts you together a little bit more. And you could do that repeatedly for an indefinite period of time. And you know, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to ever be able to formulate a clear and final picture of what constitutes the truth and the good. But it does mean that you'll be able to continually move away from what's untruth and what's bad. And, you know, that's not a bad start.
This is a very crucial concept for me and for virtually all of us. It's this idea of taking your life in your own hands and being the kind of person that you choose to be, and understanding that everything that comes your way is an opportunity, is a blessing. And it wasn't until I learned how to celebrate virtually everything that came my way that I was able to transcend it. You see, everything that was given to us by God, whatever that is perfect. No one can deny the mountains are perfect, and the rivers are perfect, and the birds are perfect, and the hippopotamuses are perfect, and so on. This is just what was given to us. Everything else that you have on our planet, that we have on our planet, comes about as a result of thinking. Thought makes it so. All right? This microphone comes about as a result of thinking. Somebody imagines it. Somebody then tells somebody else, and it creates it. The dress that you're wearing, this shirt that I'm wearing, the shoes that you have, the stage, these cameras. Everything that you see that wasn't given to us was created by man as a result of the way that we think. So what gets inside of us as a cell comes about as a result of the way that we choose to think in our lives. Very important principle to understand, because once you get a hold of thinking and that it creates everything that you have in your life, you can change and make it as absolutely perfect as you want it to be, because thought makes it so.
I started feeling like, I think everybody knows, I've moved my whole life on instinct, you know. I feel like now it's time to let the show go. I feel like it's time to move on because I've grown as much as I can grow. When I've grown as much as I can grow in a space, that's my instinct to move.
we have more power to influence our thoughts and our beliefs. And so there are a lot of tools and techniques out there that are resources. Like when I grew up, we didn't have any, we had no money, right? I had no education because I was very learning challenged. I didn't know anybody, right? So I feel like it's not, when people that's where they'll go though. When there's a stopgap between where they are and where they want to be, they'll say, oh, I don't have the money, or I don't have the education, or I don't have the intelligence, I don't have the network, or anything else like that. And what you know, as for all incredible success you've had and the value you've created for the world, is that it's not about resources, right? Because we know a lot of people who didn't have any resources that were able to impact the world. It's about our internal resources. And what I'm saying is optimizing our environment, optimizing our behaviors, our capabilities, our beliefs and our values, and our identity, right? At the highest level, our identity, because you can't just change your belief or your values or your behavior even if you don't believe you're that kind of person. That's why I kind of always go to the superhero mythos, because I want people to claim that identity. I call it the superhero you, that version of ourselves, that we're not waiting for Superman or Batman or Wonder Woman. It's like, you are Wonder Woman, you are Batman, you are Superman. It's just we have to commit ourselves to be able to unleashing that.
And I was finally at a point in my life to where I had to literally live the scripture. I had to live James chapter 1 when it says, consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, when you face trials of many kind, because the testing of your faith goes on to produce perseverance, and perseverance must finish its race so that you may be complete and lacking nothing. I had to live it. I had to live the Romans 8:28 when it says, and we know that all things work to the good of those who love the Lord, who are called according to his will and his purpose. I had to live it. I had to live Jeremiah 29:11 when it says, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope in the future. Inky, I need you to trust me. I'm like, oh, I need you to trust me. And then I started thinking about the day I got injured, and I went back, and I'm a detail guy. Right? And so when I do something, I've never been the biggest, the fastest, the most strongest. Like, I've never been that guy. And so my advantage was always my work ethic, my attention to detail. And so when I showed up to play an opponent, I knew just about everything about him, because that was my edge. And so I'm a routine guy. Like, I'll get up, eat oatmeal and banana, do it every single day. And my wife would be like, you need to eat an apple. I'm like, no, I need to stick to my routine. And when I went back and I analyzed the day, I'm looking at it from the time we left the hotel. And what I'm trying to see about the day that my career ended, I'm trying to see, was it anything different that happened other than my injury? And so I'm like, man, I got up at the same time. I was like, I did my push-ups at the same time. I'm like, when we got out to the stadium, I did my same pregame drills. I did that W drill. I did a couple of DB drills. I did the same drills. I'm like, man, I even listened to the same pregame music. Phil Collins, I can feel it coming in. That was my jam, right? That's that Phil Collins, I get ready to go, right? I even listened to the same song. And I get in the fourth quarter of a game, a little bit under 2 minutes left, and I make a tackle that I can literally make with my eyes closed, and 2 hours later, I'm in the emergency room, and I'm fighting for my life. And I wake up the next day, my career's over, almost lost my life, got a paralyzed right arm and hand, and my life has completely changed. And somehow, when Coach Foreman walked into the room and said, Inky, how are you doing? I said, Coach, I'm blessed. I'm good. I'm still alive. My career's ended, but Coach, I'm blessed. And so when I went back to the moment that I fell in love with the game of football, because I had to backtrack it to understand it, right? And when I went back to the moment that I fell in love with it, my situation and my circumstance made me fall in love with it, right? To the point to where I didn't start playing football on grass. I started playing football on concrete, right? I was playing in the street, pure passion, not too much wisdom. Right? Scarred up, bloody, getting at. I just loved it, right? Like, I always ask people, what happened to the passion? Like, what happened to the love? What happened to the dedication and determination and level of commitment that when a person said, I want to do it, and they first start, right? It's not built upon politics. It's not built upon validation. It's built solely upon, I love this, I'm going to do it, I'm going to give everything I got to it.
You must be intentional and specific about the type of growth you want. We talk all the time about having goals, but I'm talking about being specific and intentional. You show me somebody who goes to the gym and works out to get more fit and healthier compared to somebody who's going to the gym to hit a specific weight loss goal, a specific body fat percentage, wants to hit a specific number on the bench with a specific amount of reps. Those two people will be light years apart in terms of the growth of their body. One intentional and specific, one general and vague. What are your intentional, specific benchmarks you have with dates to achieve them? There must be a date, a deadline. Otherwise, it's a wish. What is the intentional, specific outcome and the deadline that it will be accomplished for? This puts your brain into hyperactive growth mode. It puts you into intentional mode. Specificity is the key to growth. And by the way, so is simplicity. You must execute, and your plan, the more simple it is, the more easy it is for you to execute. Having an intentional, specific, and simple growth plan leads to the biggest gains in your life. The next piece is you need to create momentum. And this is the final thing that I want to talk about in life. See, if we've all been ill before, if you've ever had the hardship that I have a parent right now who's got cancer. And the last thing I want that cancer to get is momentum, or to spread, as you know. And we've all seen this in the negative sense in a disease where someone gets a disease and it spreads. You get ill and it progresses and it gets momentum. You get an infection and it spreads. The worst thing you want is for something negative to get momentum. On the other hand, the best thing you can have moving towards something that's growing is momentum. In other words, when something is dying, we don't want that to get momentum. But growth, we need momentum. Momentum is the X factor nobody talks about in growth and in winning that I'm going to address last today. You have to create momentum. Momentum is what I call an invisible force that takes something good and makes it great. Takes something great and makes it extraordinary. Takes something extraordinary and makes it a max.
Of stretching out, of acting on my dream, and I don't know what that dream is for you. I can tell you that it's possible. No one could have convinced me that after just over 6 years, I will have my own book entitled Live Your Dreams. Just over 6 years, I will have 5 specials on public television. Just over 6 years, I've done motivational speaking for AT&T, Procter & Gamble, McDonald's Corporation, Xerox, IBM, just over 6 years. I will now have my own talk show that will premiere on Monday, Labor Day. I'm saying to you, your dream is possible. Your dream is possible.
Short-term tactical thinking is the part of your brain that says, I should just finance this new car or this new watch or this new TV or whatever else, instead of actually saving and paying cash for something that you can actually afford. Short-term thinking encourages you to make short-term emotional decisions that hurt you in the long run. And they definitely don't move you toward your overall strategic goals. The more short-term decisions you make, decisions that are based on that immediate gratification, decisions based on quick emotional satisfaction, and even based on involuntary chemical releases in your body, that dopamine hit, the further from the path you will stray. So, what I'm saying is, don't do that. Instead, think strategic, think long-term, act strategic. Take action that improves your long-term position and moves you toward your long-term goals. How do you do that? First, figure out where you want to go. Figure out who you want to be. Figure out what you are trying to do with your life. Write them down. What are you saving for? What are you working toward? What kind of physical condition do you want to be in? What kind of relationships do you want to have? What skills are you trying to develop? And just like any leader, you have to explain to yourself the why. Why do you want to save money? Why do you want to be in that physical condition? Why do you want those relationships, or why do you want those skills? You are your own leader. Give yourself the mission and explain the why behind those goals. Write those things down in simple, clear, concise language. Read it before you go to bed. Read it when you wake up. Read it every day until it is embedded in your brain, consciously and subconsciously. And once you've written those things down, now with all this talk about strategic thinking, also know this: you need tactical wins.